been a proponent of this type of legislation for a number of years, that you have read likely the same legal literature that I have that distinguishes reasonable belief and reasonable person standards. A reasonable belief standard being one that can be colored by someone's experience. So, for example, if I'm a white supremacist, I may have a reasonable belief that a person of color advancing upon me is threatened. Whereas a reasonable person standard says we are not going to take a person's beliefs, especially those that may be irregular or wrong. We are going to instead use the quote-unquote reasonable person that we all learned about in law school and say, was this behavior using reasonable person standard appropriate under the circumstances? And so in looking at the version of the bill that I have, reasonable belief is part of the underlying language because it is a change from the reasonable person standard. So why are we using a reasonable belief versus a reasonable person given the fact that the two are legally distinguishable?
Well, it's consistent in Arkansas law, and I think you'll find it's not that distinguishable under Arkansas law. But look on page 1, line 28. First word in that line. Reasonably believes. So that standard is the standard that we have. That's not underlined. That's current law that we have in Arkansas. And then if you go down to page 2 and line 28, or I'm sorry, page 2 and line 24. And if you look, it's once again reasonably believes. The reason why we use that language is because it's consistent with the code. And that, if that's something that you feel strongly about, now you're empowered as a legislator to file a bill and make that change. But that's not the point of this bill. This bill is not to change underlying or well-established right self-defense. This is just to say now you no longer have any duty to retreat and to clarify that. And so that, if we did it in a way that's consistent with the code that argument is.
Representative Scott, you're recognized for the question.